Okay, so if all is up well and good, you should have a cube that is your player. You should have a block that is your barrier. And then when you hit play, you should be able to use the arrow keys to be able to successfully navigate your way around the block. So if that is true, now we start making our game a little bit more interesting than just one block that we can avoid. Although that by itself is kind of a game. It's a fairly simple game, but it is still a game. So what we want to do now is make a lot more than just one or two barriers. One way we could do this is to click on the barrier and then just copy and paste it over and over and over again. The problem with that is it will create several copies that don't really talk to each other, right? So if I wanted to create a bunch of these that I could change the sizes of and have them all kind of linked together, that I needed to change some physical property or add a script to all of them, I couldn't really do that way. I just have a whole lot of individual barriers throughout the entire level. What I want to do is make something that can make it so that one barrier can inherit properties from all the other barriers. So whenever I edit one master barrier, then all of the barriers will follow that edit. So in Unity, what that is called is a prefab. A prefab is super simple to create, but it is one master object that's down in our asset window that if we copy and place that, will all be linked with all the other prefab objects that we put in that are of that type. So all we have to do to create a prefab in Unity is to click on the barrier, bring it down there, and there is our barrier. And notice that this changed its color to blue now. A blue little object there means that it is a prefab. The gray objects are simple one-type objects that we just created in our scene. So now I can click and drag my barrier wherever I'd like. So if we notice our barrier is kind of low here, so what I'm going to do is click on this, and then I'm going to raise its Y position up to 1. And if I wanted to, if I was down here, I could shift select multiple barriers, make sure all of their Y's are 1. From here, I can select my barrier in here, hit duplicate, and I have a new prefab there. Click on the move, and there it goes. Notice that it spawned directly on top of the thing that I duplicated. That's because it's creating and copying the exact same transform, so the exact same positioning. So I'm going to click on it and then move it to wherever I want. Now this is kind of a hard way to see what my level looks like if I'm just moving back and forth and looking at it from this perspective. So what I can actually do is I'll move myself in here, and I'm going to click down on my Y. From there, I can zoom out. And if I click right here where it says top, and you see that little scattered ray kind of thing, if I click that again, it'll put it into a mode where everything looks very 2D. So I'm really only messing with things in 2 dimensions. So here's this. I can kind of see my entire level. Now I want to make a level that is difficult, but not too difficult. So I don't want to make it so like if I added these two guys right here and here, then if I played this and got through the first two guys there, it is just physically impossible for me to squeeze through this little area there, right? If I have a game that you cannot win, it's physically impossible to win, it is no longer a game, it is an exercise in frustration. There is a difference. Please make your game winnable, all right? Otherwise, no one's going to want to play it. If you make it so it's ridiculously hard, but someone's proved that they can win it, that's different, and there are definitely a place for those types of games. but do ensure that it is actually winnable. So we're gonna go in, and I'm just gonna start playing around, messing with the placement of these things, maybe make some kind of cool, interesting shapes. And I can keep creating duplicates of these guys, and then moving them around a bit. Now this one hangs off the side a little bit. That ain't necessarily great. So what I want to do is click on this direct barrier, the one I want to modify, and hit change size. And I can do that for this guy and change its individual size. But what if we decided that all of these were just a little bit too big? I can go into my barrier prefab right here, and I can choose its scale and change it. So maybe I'll change it down to 2. See how that makes all of my barriers have now changed in size. Say I wanted to change it to 3 because that's a nice in the middle. Boop. And there we go. So by having an edit in this prefab, I can change the properties of all of the objects that are of that type. But if I want to select just one individual guy, then I can select just the individual one, and I can modify its properties inside here, making it whatever size I like. And that is the basics of prefabs. So make your level kind of however you like. Play test it often. Make sure that the game is both interesting and winnable. You're probably going to have to modify some stuff pretty often, and that's fine. Just make sure that it is interesting and challenging, yet also fun. Okay, once you've figured that out, come back, and then in the next, we'll figure out how to let the game know that you've crashed into something.